In some ways, today was like any other marathon day. Tens of thousands of runners from all over the world competed in the race from Hopkinton to Copley Square, cheered all along the way by throngs of spectators. But in ways big and small, this year's marathon was different. For the first time in 31 years, an American crossed the finish line first, and the symbolism of that win was not lost on 38-year-old Meb Kevlazigi, who told reporters, "It was not about me, it was about Boston Strong." 1 year after the finish line turned into a massive crime scene, the world's oldest annual marathon has taken on a new significance. I spent the day in Copley Square, and along with my colleague, WGBH News reporter Adam Reilly, although we never even saw each other. It was such a mob scene down there. So I had a lot of observations, and I'm probably like you. I was looking around everywhere to see what I could take in, if I could spot, undercover police in the crowd, and looking for cameras and just taking note of the people. How about yourself? What'd you observe?
I mean, what really hit me, and this is one reason that we never saw each other, is just how tight the security was around the finish line. I mean, you and I were caught on opposite sides of Boylston Street, and what I came away with was that Boylston was basically shut down from Mass Ave all the way to the Public Garden. I haven't been a regular marathon goer. I've been to a couple in the past. It's been a few years. But my recollection was that you could just sort of walk right down to where the runners were coming through, that there was very little scrutiny required to do that. Today, of course, bags were being searched. There were guards directing you to one side if you don't have a bag, one side if you do. Once you were in, you would be scanned with a security wand. At least that's how it was in the media section. Yeah. So the security was it was intense. They
shut down Dartmouth, too, so they could back ambulances in there, because while I was there, actually an ambulance came along and it took somebody away. I think it was actually a young man who had been in a wheelchair, maybe a cerebral palsy or something like that. It wasn't related to the running, but that was different as well.
One point I should add, actually, on the subject of security, is that I had a really hard time finding anyone. In fact, I didn't find anyone who thought the security went too far. Everyone I spoke with basically said, if this is what it takes to make the marathon go off without a hitch, we're fine with it. And I think we have some sound and video of one man who I spoke with who expressed those sentiments pretty pointedly.
Came in through the Newbury Street checkpoint, I guess you call it like that. It feels like a demilitarized zone over here. I mean, if you don't have anything to hide, you don't mind. I mean, I'm not one of those civil libertarians who's going to worry about somebody checking my bag. I don't carry a purse. Instructed my wife to leave hers at home, and that way we just smooth right through the checkpoints. This has got to be the safest place in the world right now. I mean, outside of being at the White House. And like I said, if you don't have anything to hide, you appreciate the police being around. If something goes down, I know I don't have to handle it. They can do it.
And again, that was totally representative. Basically, everyone I talked to voiced those same sentiments.
Okay, and our colleague Jared Bowen was at the start line in Hopkinton. As I've said many times, I had that assignment for about 20 years when I was working for Channel 5. So you hadn't been out there, as I remember, but what was it like? You got there really early.
Well, I got there a little after 5 o'clock this morning, and I think this morning there was tension in the air. You could feel it. It was the anticipation. It was everything unfolding. Arrived under cover of darkness. There was just about every measure of law enforcement that you could possibly imagine. There was ATF. There were bomb squad officials and dogs from a number of regions around the country. There was National Guard. There were the state police. There were the local police, and everything, just like throughout the race, was strictly cordoned off. You needed credentials to get in various areas. There were bag checks. People were wanded. Interestingly, you had to park at a couple of locations if you were a spectator or a visitor. And you had to go through security, not unlike what you're seeing here, just to get on the bus. Interestingly, you didn't have to go through security to get back on the bus to leave the marathon race. So there was a little bit of inconsistency. But what I thought was really, really interesting is the state police told us this morning that they had deployed about 3,000 officials across the marathon route from Hopkinton to Boston, both uniformed and plainclothed. And they were also told that in addition to making sure the grounds were secure, they had to be ambassadors for the race. And I don't know what you guys found, but I found that people were largely very kind about it, and it was this was a community event. Everybody was doing it for the betterment of the protection of the race, and so it was a largely positive experience.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, there are political conventions, situations like that where sometimes exactly law enforcement is overtly antagonistic, and I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. So what about the runners? Did they seem just pumped for the race, Jared, or were they a little concerned?
From what I found, it was really the spectators that I thought were most concerned. In fact, there were not a lot lot of people on the town common. You've covered it more. I've only been at the race once as a runner, but you've covered it before. And from what I understand, the town common is generally really packed.
Yeah.
But the runners, I think at the end of the day, it was finally their moment. They have trained for so long. This has been such a conversation about this. And so today, once they got into the crowds, once they were able to cross the start line, it really was a metaphorical and literal step forward.
So as you said, you did run the marathon a few years ago, so.
Well, as did Bill Rogers, who is, of course, a four-time champion. And I spoke to him at the race this morning, too. He's like so many people who wanted to run this race. When he first heard what happened last year, he was going to do it again this year. Unfortunately, pulled a hamstring, so he was on the lead truck. But I did talk to him about what running the race this year does mean for the 36,000 people who did.
I believe we're moving from kind of a very dark period, feelings and struggle in a certain way. But, you know, we always knew that's not going to be the end. This marathon and what marathoning and the Boston Marathon and our sport stands for is, I think, the people of the whole world. 80 countries are here. 80 countries. And all love this event. This is the heart of the marathoning world.
What a great ambassador he is for this race and running all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer your question, I think it did feel. I saw some friends who were there today who were running the marathon. And again, I think once people got into that spot, and it was a great day, the temperature was prime, the sun was out, it was a great day to be running. And I think that spirit was back there.
All right. So you talked to a couple of runners coming over.
I was talking to runners on the other end, yeah. And I was trying to get a sense from them of whether what happened last year was a big reason that they ran today. For many of them it was. And also whether last year's attacks were in their mind in some way as they ran the course. And on that, some people said they were a little bit, that maybe if they felt their energy flag, they hearkened back to the attacks to draw some extra motivation. But for most of them, as Jared was saying, it wasn't really front and center once they started running, mentally speaking. And I think we have, again, sound and video from one man I spoke with who voiced his thoughts on this.
That was the only reason I came back, is from what happened last year. It was just, I thought it was just such a violation of such a beautiful time. And I'm from Eugene, Oregon, so it was like 2 weeks later, Eugene, and I said, I just got to get my Boston qualifier, and I got to be there next year for the recovery run.
How much was it on your mind in the race?
Not much. I mean, I did run in the middle of the road, so I was thinking a little bit, but it wasn't. I mean, you just trust everything's going to be okay, and it's just, you know, usually it's such an innocent event. It was just, I just wanted to enjoy it.
He ran in the middle of the road. So he said, I was a little bit anxious. It was a little bit on my mind.
You could see the ropes really kept people off. Well, when I was standing in Copley Square, I actually ran into Red Sox chairman Tom Werner, and I get a kick out of the fact he was walking right up because he wanted to walk the race route as far as he could up to Fenway Park, and here's what he had to say.
I think people want to say, you know what, we're back, and that those jerks, you know, aren't going to stop us from what is a great day. And I was walking in the park today and just see people from, you know, 18 to 80 who are just so excited about what's going to happen today. And they're all amateurs, and it's a great day for this city.
Sadly, the Red Sox did not win, but that was a great attitude, and he seemed to sort of reflect what everybody else was feeling about it.
I think there's a shift. Today was the shift. We have been through so much. We've covered so much. We've heard so many stories, and they've been hard to absorb in a lot of ways. And covering the memorial last week, there wasn't a sense of we're moving forward. We're still wrestling with everything that has happened to the city. I was at the Fenway ceremony last night, where the dignitaries were honored, along with the first responders and the players and everybody who was involved, and they came out in the field. And even then, it didn't feel triumphant. It just felt, you know, we're still coming together. We're still trying to piece this together. But today was the first moment that I felt, as a reporter, being on the ground as I have for all of this over the last year, that there was a different energy.
I totally agree with that, and I think it was reflected in the mood at the finish line where we were, and also in some of the things that you didn't see or hear today. I was looking around throughout the day for specific references to the individuals who lost their lives last year, and they were very hard to find. I saw a sign, a shirt in Martin Richard's name. I think it said Martin Richard 8 early on.
Yeah, I saw that, MR8.
And then later on, there was a woman who had just finished the race who had written Martin Richard 8 and had a peace sign on her arm. I also saw a Collier Strong T-shirt, but that sort of thing, it wasn't really easy to spot.
I agree.
And I think, you know, for a loved one of those victims, that'd be very difficult, but I think it's also a measure of health and a measure of recovery.
Yeah. All right, Adam Reilly, Jared Bowen, thanks for your thoughts on that.